We have drafted a design for the Earth of tomorrow, a vision of the rural and urban landscape we have the creative power to make reality. Time to let our imagination run. This is Session 9, A Life, in a course titled Blueprint for Reconstruction, and that is an aspect of a larger view, evolution of consciousness theory. In this, our course's final session, we give our plan a touch of humanity. What will life be like in the landscape of tomorrow? Our story begins on a fall day, high on the flanks of an urban tower. A gentle breeze crosses a granite terrace, which overlooks the urban communities of Los Angeles' first city unit. On the terrace stands a 39-year-old woman. Her name is Tenacia. With her are her mother and father, her husband, and her 15-year-old daughter. Tenacia isn't a leader in the Reconstruction movement. She has no training as an engineer and has drawn no city plans and designed no skyscrapers. Her skill is as an iron worker. Yet, Tenacia looks on the city structure that rises before her with the greatest sense of accomplishment. In her way, she made it possible. As Tenacia gazes on the towers that soar around her and on the transit lines that run between urban communities and that give the city unit the look of a blossoming flower, she also feels a sadness. As grand as the city structure may be, it is complete. The job is over. There will be no more iron to sling. The completion of the city unit marked the end of a period in Tenacia's life that began 3,000 miles away and almost 40 years ago. Tenacia was born in Detroit, where, until the age of 5, she lived in an apartment with her mother and father. Tenacia was too young to remember, but her mother had told her that even when she was 2 and 3, she loved to draw and to build things. Most children do, Tenacia felt, when she was old enough to think about these things. But in her mother's eye, she had a special knack for it, a special love. Her father thought so too. She was a builder, he had told her. She was someone who liked to feel things with her hands and to shape them to her liking. What Tenacia clearly remembered, though, was that when she was almost old enough to start school, she and her mother drove her father to the bus station so that he could catch a coach to Los Angeles. There were great things happening on the West Coast, he had told them. He would go there and see for himself, and if everything looked safe and all right, find a job and a place to live so that Tenacia and her mother could join him. Her father called when he arrived in Los Angeles to let them know he got there okay, and he called a month later and told them to come. Tenacia and her mother packed what they could fit into their car and gave the rest of their things to a man who fixed the car so that it wouldn't break down on the trip. Tenacia was too young to worry about such concerns, but she was excited about traveling such a long way, and she could feel that her mother was too. The government in Washington didn't approve of what was going on in California and was stopping people from driving that far west. So they headed south through Mexico and arrived in Los Angeles a week later to find the city no different than they had seen on television: smog, traffic, riots, and urban unrest. Tenacia's father was waiting for them at the house where they would live, and he told them not to be scared and that things weren't as they appeared. For them, life would be much better here, he said. The stores were stocked, they didn't have to pay rent, the schools were good, and the clinics didn't cost anything. Tenacia didn't know if the schools were any better than those in Detroit because she hadn't gone to school at their old home, but she liked school. Her teachers recognized her talent for drawing and for working with her hands and encouraged her to pursue these interests. Her mother also went to school, and so did her father. But it never occurred to Tenacia that it was an odd thing for parents to do. The parents of most of the kids in her class went to school. It was just something parents did. In Tenacia's class, the teachers helped her learn to read books with pictures of art and buildings, and to learn to calculate and to draw on paper and computers. They also taught her to make things from clay and wood, and to think of new things to make and new ways to make old things. School was exciting for Tenacia. There was always something to do or to read or to think about, and there was always time to play and for her parents to visit. As Tanesia's mother explained, school for adults was different. Her mother's school was a place where grown-ups could learn what they were good at and what they liked to do. For a long time, Tanesia's mother didn't know what she was good at or liked to do. Then some people came to her school to talk about a farm they were building on the ocean, and she decided to study the sea and its life. While she was learning about these things, Tanesia's mother talked to the people who were building the ocean farm and told them that she wanted to be part of what they were doing. She said that she would open a fish market in the city so they could take turns working on the farm and in town and not get bored and be able to spend more time with their families. The fish farm people liked the idea, and they agreed to work together. Unlike her mother, Tanesia's father knew right away what he wanted to study in school. He liked to work with wood, and in school learned to design cabinets and furniture, and to use the tools that made these things. After he knew enough to get started, he found a building near their home and filled it with all kinds of power tools. Tanesia loved this building and its tools. When she was old enough, her father let her help him draw boards through their blades and to clean up piles of sawdust. In Detroit, her parents had always talked about money. Tanesia didn't understand why, but money wasn't a problem in Los Angeles. They had the things they needed, and her parents could go to school and learn to do what they liked. And it seemed they always had time to spend with her. After a while, no one talked about money, and Tanesia forgot all about it. As the years passed, Tanesia's father worked in the furniture shop, and her mother worked in the fish stand and on the ocean farm. Tanesia spent time in school, but also worked with her mother in the market and traveled with her on the boat to the ocean farm, where they would feed, harvest, and gut the fish. But her favorite thing was building cabinets and furniture with her father. She was good at calculations and drawing plans, but mostly she liked working with the tools, cutting and joining the wood. As a teenager, school was less important to Tanesia than when she was younger, but she would take classes when she had a need to learn something or when she wanted to be with her friends. One of her interests was welding, and it was in a class she had taken to learn to weld steel beams that her life changed. She met a man. He was her age and shared her love of tools and building. The two became close, and when Tanesia turned 19, they married. Tanesia and her husband lived in the house with Tanesia's parents. For a time, they worked with her mother and father. Then Tanesia took a job as a metal worker in a shipyard that scrapped old oil tankers. Her husband went to school to train as an engineer, and then went to work in the steel mill that smelted the iron from the shipyard. Work for both of them took a back seat when, at the age of 24, Tanesia gave birth to her daughter. Tanesia settled into family life, and so did her husband and parents. As a mother, Tanesia spent most of her time at home, where she taught her daughter to draw and to build with blocks. Her husband and parents also spent time with the child, who was the center of all of their lives. As a family, they provided Tanesia's daughter with the time and attention she needed, and each other with the time to keep up with their work and interests. Tanesia had a good life, but she never took time to think about it. Her parents had told stories about the way things were before they moved west, but it was another time, and their struggle to make ends meet in Detroit didn't make much sense to Tanesia. She was happy with the life she knew, and she was never bored. Things were happening all around them, great things. The television was showing plans and models of a new city to be built on a part of Los Angeles periodically torn up by riots and where few people now lived. The new city was to be enormous, with soaring towers and with urban communities and city units linked by transit lines and surrounded by lakes and farms. Everything about the new city was grand and magnificent, fanciful and extraordinary, and they were told that in only a few years they would live there. Taken by the plans and pictures of the new city and by the machines that would build it, Tanesia felt a renewed yearning to work with her hands. She spent more time in her father's shop, and when her daughter was old enough to start school, left her job at the shipyard and went to work as a welder, building the cranes that would be used to construct the new city. At the age of 32, Tunisia, her husband, her daughter, and her mother and father gathered around the television to watch lines of bulldozers tear through block after block of old brick and wooden buildings, and lines of dump trucks haul away the debris. Never had Tunisia felt such excitement. Never had she seen such machines as those that were shaping the land on which the new city would rise. It was all she, her husband, and her parents talked about: the new city. It was all her daughter and her daughter's friends talked about: how when they grew up, they were going to build new cities all over the world. It was as if the entire universe had focused on what was happening in their lives. Everyone felt a sense of purpose, a feeling that they were part of some great mission to transform the earth. This, Tunisia thought, must have been what it felt like when, generations ago, people united and took up arms to fight against the totalitarian regimes of old and for the freedom to chart one's future. Only their cause was one of peace and renewal. Giant excavation machines dug the enormous hole in which the foundation structure of the first urban community would be built, and Tunisia left her job building cranes to join one of the hundreds of crews that would lay and weld the steel reinforcement and place the steel molds in which the foundation concrete would be poured. Crews and machines worked day and night until 6 months later, the foundation structure was in place. Some crews moved on to build the next foundation structure. Tunisia and her team of ironworkers stayed to raise the steel beams of the first urban community. They began with the vast expanse of interior and exterior space on the community's lower levels, and then went on to build the transit terminals and the first great towers. Everywhere in Los Angeles, activity was at a frenzy. Lines of construction equipment rolled along freeways. Steel mills spewed out truckload after truckload of girders and reinforcement. Cement factories and sand and gravel quarries fed plants that mixed concrete and that transported it into the new city on conveyors and in enormous buckets suspended from cables. Rail lines brought food from the countryside. Ships unloaded slabs of granite from Canada and slabs of marble from China and Brazil. Inspired by the structure taking shape before them and by the excitement of its builders, people throughout the old city were tossing away their dollars and joining the Reconstruction movement. New schools were opening to provide the education people needed to work on the construction crews and to open businesses in the new city. When they finished raising the girders of the tower where Tunisia and her family would live, she took time off her job and worked with her mother, father, and daughter to finish her father's new woodworking shop, which was located on one of their urban community's lower levels near her mother's new fish market. After this was done and the walls and stonework of the tower were in place, Tunisia and her family set to work finishing the 3,000 square foot space that would be their home. All around them, people were doing the same. Restaurants and businesses were opening, and people were leaving their old homes to move into the urban community. As people vacated buildings in the old city, bulldozers cleared away streets, freeways, and structures to make way for the other urban communities in the city unit. After Tunisia and her family had moved into their tower home, she went back to work with her crew of ironworkers and went on to build the next urban community in the city unit, and then the one after that. Tunisia's mother stayed busy in the fish market and on the ocean farm, and her father stayed busy building furniture for the new homes. Tunisia's husband continued to work at the steel mill, which extruded many of the beams and reinforcement bars Tunisia's crew raised and welded into place. Tunisia's daughter, who, while helping to finish their tower home, had taken a liking to tile work, taught families how to set marble and granite floor tiles in their homes. She also had an aptitude for mathematics and dreamed of one day designing a city. Then again, she liked to cook and wanted to open a seafood restaurant next to her grandmother's fish market. She also liked to swim, paint, sculpt, and grow flowers, and wanted to show her art along the urban community's walkways landscape its terraces, and coach children at one of their community's pools. Such was as it should be, Tenacia thought. Her daughter could do it all. As work progressed on the other urban communities in the city unit, life settled down for Tenacia and her family. The transit made it easy to get around, and they didn't have to go into the old city and deal with its problems. Tenacia divided her time between her family and a new job training ironworkers. This didn't give her a chance to work with her hands, so she also built furniture in her father's shop. Things were also settling down in their city unit. Hundreds of businesses were open, and work on the lakes and parkland around the unit was underway. Tenacia and her family spent time in their tower home, but the community was also their home, their extended family and place to belong. 7 years after they had broken ground on Los Angeles's first urban community, their city unit was declared complete. Tenacia and her family gathered on the granite terrace of their tower home to look upon their accomplishment. Their city unit was home to 500,000 people, and more inspiring than anything they had imagined when years ago they had studied its drawings and models. As she gazed over the cluster of urban communities that rose before her, Tenacia's feelings were of awe and pride, of satisfaction in the work she had done. They were also of sadness, for the city unit was finished. The job was done. The completion of the city unit marked the end of a period in Tenacia's life that began when, as a child, she and her parents had traveled west. Looking back, Tenacia felt a nostalgia at the great venture that she had in part pioneered, but her feelings for the past didn't last for long. Her city unit may be done, but in the distance, bulldozers were tearing apart roads and freeways to build other city units. New Los Angeles would be home to 20 million people, and after it was complete, there would be other cities to raise and more iron to sling. Tenacia was a builder who worked with her hands, and she had a world to shape. With this moment of reflection, we complete the final session in our course on humankind's reconstruction of the Earth's urban and ecological infrastructure. Our exploration of evolution of consciousness theory continues in our fourth course on the topic, History as an Evolution of Consciousness.